All right, everybody, welcome. Oh, now people are popping in. Welcome, welcome. Let me pin myself.
Thank you for sending that text reminder out. It actually showed up on my calendar for 8 o'clock, not 6 o'clock.
Oh, it did? Oh, that's
It did.
interesting.
It did. And I almost was late.
That's all right. That's all right.
So
I know I had like a bunch of people sign up, but as these normal things go, everybody seems to want to watch recordings these days. So awesome. How are you doing?
good. Good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. So cool. Well, I've got a ton of like I pulled together so much stuff. I'm a little bit like I don't even know if I can fit this all in an hour. So we'll see what we get. But is there any particular thing that called you about this class that spoke to you that I could make sure that I fit in?
Are you talking to me?
I am talking to you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wanted to grab a scratch pad. No, I just, I've had some, experienced with, trust issues within relationships, and I think that for men and women that it's different. What
Hmm.
might constitute a breach of trust or something that should be um, maybe offered proactively versus waiting for reactive questions. I mean, things like that. I think there's a lot of nuance in that. I think there's a lot of, I mean, beyond the obvious things, obviously. But I think there's a lot of nuance and subtlety in
Yeah.
it, potentially, especially, both people bringing in their respective pasts, previous relationships, and, all the stuff that I've researched on like childhood traumas and attachment styles and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It can get pretty messy.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Hugely messy.
Yeah. So hopefully that sort of answered your question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'll just get started and I'll kind of go through my stuff and feel free to ask questions. And other people might pop in, they might not. We'll see what happens and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. So, one of
Is
the,
it is it
okay,
literally just you and I?
there are like 8 people signed up for this course. And right now it's just you and
Oh,
I that are logged
oh,
on.
okay. No, sorry, earlier I didn't. I thought you were talking to like a collective group, and then I just realized there was just two of us here. So
Yeah. Well, that was the thing is
awesome.
0 people are going to show up. I was like, well, I'm just going to get started and
My
record the thing.
my own private class. I love it.
I know. So that's why I was like, well, shoot, I might as well make sure I cover what you want me to cover. So yeah, I had some women sign up, a bunch of men sign up. So even one guy called me last night. He's like, I'm so excited for your class tomorrow, but I don't know where he is. So nope. And no text message either. So it's all right. Teach their own. All right. So we'll get started then. So some of the topics I want to cover tonight are just in general about what trust looks like. How women feel trust. We'll talk a little bit about, how women should be reciprocating for men in the arena of trust, right? Because I don't want to just have this be a class of like, here's what you guys need to do kind of thing, because there's give and take in every relationship. I'm going to talk
Right.
about a concept that's called positive ownership, which is a term that Teal Swan, who's really big in relationships and connection, puts out. And I think she does a really beautiful job of describing safety of male structure that women feel when they feel like they're safe and when they can trust their partner in a
Yeah.
relationship. Have you heard
And
of that concept before?
well, and I haven't, and I didn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Very
but
good.
there's like a really significant connection topically for me on that.
Hmm.
I mean, this is kind of embarrassing, but up until reasonably recently, this whole idea of like emotional safe space
Hmm.
was like a completely foreign concept to me
Yeah,
because it was something that I never had.
right.
So I didn't know it was missing because it was never something that I had. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, my
Yeah.
responses to things, addressing conflict in conversation, all that
Hmm.
was like I've been doing it completely wrong. Um, so I'm glad you touched on that because that was like a really significant epiphany for me.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and I think it is for a lot of people, especially to, because we're taught that trust means doing what you say and showing up when you say you're going to
Right.
show up and that kind of stuff, right? Kind of
Absolutely.
the basics, even though honestly, I hear a lot of women saying that men aren't even doing the basics, and I think a lot of women aren't even doing the basics anymore either,
You got it. Yeah.
right? And what I'm
Right.
also seeing is this, um, and I kind of hate saying this, but it's the easiest way to say it, is there's a place where the women's rights movement has like made women so move into their masculine. So when I talk about masculine, I'm talking about like the doing, right? Masculine is
Right.
doing, it's active, it's protective, it's like action, 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 action. Whereas women is more like receiving, soft, feminine. We create, right? It's like give a woman a home,
Right.
give a woman a house, she'll build a home kind of concept, right? We take and we use our energy to make something, to make a meal, something that's nourishing, right? We take food, we make meals from it. We take, we
Right.
make babies, we make homes,
Right.
we take everything and we give it like the life force behind it in a different way. But we
Mhm.
do that because we're so emotional and we need the structure and safety around that, both of trust, but of the masculine frame. And I think what has happened with the feminist movement is that we've all been taught to be in our masculine. Like women can do
Right.
everything that men can do. Yeah, can we? Absolutely. Is it healthy for us? Not really. I mean, I know how to do construction. I've done construction most of
Sure.
my life. Does that mean that I can't step back and be in my feminine frame sometimes? Right? Because
Sure.
when we're in our masculine all the time, we burn out and we get angry and bitter and resentful and we're
Sure.
doing it all. And then we get upset because we take over the whole relationship. And then
Right.
we're mad at our man because it's like, oh, well, you don't listen to me. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I don't feel appreciated. But we don't allow that. And I think that's
Well,
where humans
absolutely.
step
And
in.
I think that lack of emotional safety manifests very differently for men and women,
Absolutely.
when they don't have it, right? I mean, a woman expects her need for emotional expression is not to be fixed, it's just to be heard and to be allowed to express her emotions and feel like it's okay and not necessarily need response, but just support in it. Whereas a man needs to be emotionally regulated enough to not to just be there, to have that presence, to
Mm-hmm.
make her, to allow her to feel safe in doing so. But that means he has got to be in full management of not only his own emotions, but the ability to kind of help her through hers as well. And again, speaking for me personally, when you don't know that's a thing and
Mm-hmm.
you never had it, as a man, the first thing you do is you jump in and say, "Here, let me help you fix that." And so I think if a woman does not have that emotional safety in her background and tends to be very, very emotional about everything, it really puts a man in a weird spot who's never had that. And that's where I think a lot of that friction comes from.
Yep. Yeah. And we all do whatever we learned from childhood with our unconscious minds.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and unfortunately, a lot of men have grown up without a father figure. And so they're their mothers teaching them to be more
Sure,
emotional and feel your feelings. And all of that's fantastic.
sure,
But they don't know then how to hold the masculine frame because they never had a concept of it.
sure. Or a father that didn't have any emotional regulation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Who had either zero, especially up here where you've got like the Germans, the Swedes, the
Oh,
Norwegians,
yeah.
who just like suppress everything.
Well, stoicism,
Oh,
on one end, and then, anger and rage issues on the other, for
yep.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
interesting.
And for women, like when we don't feel safe, we don't feel held in that structure, our bodies shut down too.
Oh,
Right. So we
absolutely.
don't feel desire, we don't feel needed, we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard, and we go right into survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we
100%.
can't connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, that's I just yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff I wish I'd known a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of men.
Oh,
And a lot of women right now, I mean, the other class I'm teaching is all about getting women out of their masculine.
right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I see a lot of that too, especially like you pointed out. Women have very aggressively stepped into much more masculine
mhm,
roles and positions in their families and society, for
mhm,
sure. Yeah,
right. And it's a safety survival mechanism, but
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
doesn't it
absolutely.
doesn't nurture us where we need to be nurtured, right?
Right.
And so what's interesting is when we look at the male female dynamic, a lot of the things that men, when they're in their masculine, tend to do when they're not in that emotional space, right? They withdraw or they give silence, and then women are like, oh, I'm being abandoned, or they don't care, even though the man is just thinking something through, he's processing,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like I had a couple that I was working with, and it was interesting because talking to them individually when they talked about their fights, he would get angry at himself when he upset her, did something wrong. Like he, when he knew he screwed something up, right? Like when he
Right.
was taking ownership and saying, I know this is my fault, I screwed something up. He'd get angry at himself, he'd withdraw, he'd go away. And then she saw that as, see, he doesn't even care. He doesn't even want to bother talking to me about it. And so then she felt abandoned. She felt worthless and unloved and unheard. And he's sitting there in his office beating himself up for being such a bad husband, right? So it's so
Right.
that miscommunication alone creates so much relationship dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that whole walk away, I mean, I think there's two very distinctly different pieces to that, right? And I've done that myself in the, in the heat of the battle, in the heat of the conflict, say, give me a minute, and to just like step away from this just for a minute, come back.
Yeah. And it's really
But
the
that's important. I think that's important to catch yourself in the moment. But then beyond that, though, it's like, well, how do you come back?
best.
Do you come back and are you able to provide that safe frame for her?
Hmm.
Or you just kind of send your anger down, your frustration down, and coming back to figure out how to solve the problem,
Yeah.
right? Because you can do one very well and completely butcher the other one.
Right.
Yeah,
But also the challenge can be then is what actually needs to be solved because what men
right,
see is something that needs to be solved and what women see as something that needs to be solved can often be different when it comes to conflict like that.
right. But you don't even really know what that is until the conversation happens. And
Right.
that's where men have to be able to listen without solving to get to, well, what is the actual thing that we are trying to solve?
Right. Yeah, what's the common ground?
Oh, right.
Because there's
I mean,
always common ground. I mean, one of the things I love telling people is even pro-life people and pro-choice people have a common ground, and that's let's prevent unwanted pregnancies in the first place. Right. So
right, right.
everyone that even then when they seem totally polar opposite want the same thing in some way. It's just a matter of
Absolutely.
finding what that is. And then does it actually matter how you get to that spot if you can get to
Exactly.
that spot?
Yeah. But you've got to get to the point where you're at least talking the same language and on the same page. And that
Absolutely.
a lot of times is where those earlier things, if they're not done right, it never gets to that conversation.
Right. And what I often encourage women, right, is also to respect the man's efforts. Like when he's coming in and trying to fix something, actually respect that he wants to make things better, that he's working on trying to
Right.
help the relationship instead of getting upset. Right.
Right. And that's where that shutdown, like when women shut down, like we're talking about,
Hmm.
that's where that really goes off the rails. Like for a man, it's like, well, I didn't even know this was an issue. I didn't
Yep.
even know you had a problem with this. I
Yeah.
can't recognize everything or see it without you saying something. So I think that happens
Right.
quite, quite a bit too. They kind
Yep.
of play off of each other.
And what happens is then women criticize the gap.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
they criticize the places they don't even know why. It's like I've talked about in some of my classes. It's not about the fact that he didn't do the dishwasher. It has nothing to
Well,
do with the
right.
dishwasher, right?
Right. That was something else that I heard too, specifically about criticism, about female criticism. It's not that they're being critical. it's their way of saying that they care and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember literally saying in my last relationship, I don't know how to say this any more clearly to you that this is what I need. Like that's what I literally said out loud. I do not know how to communicate to you that this is
Uh,
what I need. And instead of like sitting down and figuring it out, he was like, well, you got to figure it out, I guess. Like this just was just a thing. Like, okay.
yeah.
So it's interesting because like the fear that comes up, or like we talked about, like the avoidant attachment, right? Intimacy is
Mhm.
risky. And every time something intimate starts coming up, they go
Right.
back to self-reliance, right? Or that disorganized where they're like, oh my gosh, being close feels unsafe because it's been unsafe in the past. And all of those mechanisms kick in on top of
Right.
the actual dynamics that are going on within the personal relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, positive ownership. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, you've
Yeah.
not heard of that concept before?
I actually have not.
Okay.
That one is brand new, brand new.
Yeah. And so the words of it get pretty criticized because of course it sounds like we're talking about men dominating women or something, but really it's exactly the opposite. So positive ownership in the way that she talks about it is about seeing someone as a part of yourself, not in a controlling way, but in a really
Right.
caring, responsible way where the other person's well-being is tied to yours,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I care so much about this person that I am as I would take care of her. We'll just say her. Like I would take care of my favorite sports car. Like not to compare women and cars,
Right.
but
Right.
it's that thing of like I'll keep them in good shape. I make sure that they're taken care of, that they're, I want to show them off. I want to like let them know that they're beautiful. I communicate with them, right? But it's really also about looking at their best interests without sacrificing free will. Right. So we
Right.
talk about that positive ownership. She's talking about that container, that male structure of like, how can I be taking care of her best interests without actually boxing her in? Right. Because
Mhm.
if she feels taken care of, heard, understood, safe, now her feminine comes in and creates everything underneath, right? So now,
Sure.
if I don't have to worry about is the garbage taken out, I mean, I'm going to use putsy things because they're easy examples, right? If I don't
Mhm.
have to worry about, is he looking at porn online or is he, going to mow the lawn or is he going to, do I have to take care of the
Sure.
kids tonight or is he going to help that or is he even listening or caring about me? If I don't have to worry about any of those things, now all of my energy as a woman can be poured into creating better things in the household, supporting him, right?
Right.
Because then it creates this place of appreciativeness and flow and reception. Because now, if I'm receiving that safety, it gives me so much more capacity to create. And
So
so,
I got a question for you.
yeah, absolutely.
So, within this overarching concept, right?
Yep.
So, how would you say that a woman that doesn't necessarily have a real strong maternal nature
Hmm.
or drive
Hmm.
would express support potentially differently? Somebody that's maybe more independent,
Hmm.
doesn't care for children, never wanted to have children,
Right.
lives a very different type of life than what I would consider like to be the traditional
Hmm.
type of woman. How would that support present, supporting a man from a woman that isn't necessarily inclined so strongly that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so even like right now with independent women, right? Independent women like say,
Mhm.
we make the same amount of money, we're both responsible, we're paying
Sure.
50-50 on the house, right? There's a certain way that when a man steps up and does the little things, right? Oh, you can go, you even bring it down to things like opening car doors,
Yeah,
grabbing things from the grocery store on the way home, asking what she needs, being reachable, being emotionally
sure.
available, right? Attuning to her emotional state and saying, like, hey, you seem a little off. Is everything okay? Doing things that take pressure off her without having to ask, providing environments for like growth and expansion, like those kinds of things as a masculine frame, then allow the feminine to come forward.
Right. But
Hmm.
I'm saying in the presence of that, if she's receiving that from a man,
Yep.
how is she providing support in return?
Appreciation.
Right.
A lot of it's also about appreciation and being supportive of his emotional needs too, right? Because the thing is
Right.
that we talk about it as when there's a strong masculine structure, the woman also has more capacity to take care of her man. But if she feels like she's taking care of everybody, that's where you start hearing the women talk about, oh, I've got a bunch of kids, including my husband, kind of stuff,
Sure. Sure.
right? Whereas when she feels like she's being taken care of by her man, now she also wants to take care of her man.
Right.
You know what
Well,
I mean? So
yeah,
now it
absolutely.
becomes,
Yeah.
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 And that
Yeah.
goes from everything from emotions to doing things for him as well, to making sure his needs are taken care of, to usually also increased intimacy, more
Yeah.
sex, all
Yeah.
that
For
kind of
sure.
stuff,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
Because if she feels safe, nurtured, and taken care of, that allows that energy to keep moving. So, and
Yeah.
not
No, it
just it's
totally
like,
makes
oh,
sense.
you do one thing to get sex, right? Like, well,
No, no,
we're
no,
doing
not
that.
at all. I
Yeah.
mean, but again, as I reflect on myself not doing a lot of those things right,
Hmm.
you know, causing shutdown and other byproducts against where I feel like I maybe was doing things right
Hmm.
against what I was seeing or feeling as far as like support and expectations. It's like where was the misalignment because I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain, and where was I and the other person wasn't holding up their end? That's what I'm
Right.
trying to kind of get a figure out in all of this when I kind of cycle it through.
And it's about clear expectations.
Yeah.
Like literally sitting down and saying, okay, let's say we're arguing about household roles or duties around the house, right? Okay, here's a great example. So my friends were talking about this the other day when their kid went off to college. The husband was like, well, of course she takes the bed to college. She's going to college. It's her bed. It's from her bedroom. And the wife was
Right.
like, no, the bed is our furniture. We raised the children, but it's our furniture that turns into a spare bedroom. That's our bed. We don't give it to her. And it both came from how they grew up in childhood, right?
Sure.
And so
Absolutely.
like something as silly, seemingly silly as is the kid taking the bed to school or not? Like had to turn into a conversation of, okay, well, where did this come from? What do you think about it? Why do you believe the way that you do? Where can we come to negotiation? And
Right.
really that's what needs to happen when we're looking at like when women are starting to complain or nag, like this
Mhm.
isn't right, and you're not doing anything, and why don't you listen to me? And you don't blah blah blah. It's really about sitting down and understand and asking the deeper questions.
And that's typically that next level of conversation is where
Yeah.
typically that doesn't happen.
Right.
And then it's about winning the argument and all of the other
Right.
stuff.
Because now it's an argument because now we're
Yeah, for
getting
sure.
defensive. I'm not being heard. You feel like you're not doing enough or you're getting attacked and blah, blah, blah. And now we're both
Yeah,
arguing
absolutely.
when really what we want is connection.
Right. Absolutely.
Hmm. Yep.
No,
And
makes
so,
sense.
and here's the interesting thing to notice as well is sometimes women haven't even tuned into themselves to actually know what they want, which sounds stupid, but they don't know that the reason that they're angry about you and not emptying the dishwasher is because they don't feel supported.
Hmm.
They can't draw that conclusion sometimes.
Yeah. And I have had enough of those necessary downstream conversations to
Hmm.
flesh out exactly that and find out,
Right.
oh, they were really upset about something that had absolutely nothing to do with what we're arguing about,
Right.
for sure.
Absolutely. And so it all comes down to opening a safe place to have conversation,
Yeah.
really. And then following through, because that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's the follow through. And one thing I like to remind women as well is once we feel like we're not being seen, heard, understood, we're not being taken care of, our brain is naturally looking for all the ways that we're not safe because it's our survival mechanism.
Absolutely.
And so, unless I go out of my way to see how he is working on it, to see what he is doing, to see the changes, or to see just the things that I missed before, like, oh, I
Right.
took for granted that you took care of the whole lawn and fixed the water heater and fixed that faucet last week. When I was complaining about the dishwasher, right? Like sometimes, like we
Yeah,
don't notice just the same way that guys don't notice sometimes what we do
absolutely.
because we're just in our own roles doing our
Right.
thing and it just becomes so natural,
Yeah.
right? So it's also about reorienting the unconscious mind to see what is the other person actually doing,
Mhm.
like from a place of, and then actually appreciating that from both sides, right? If we want to call them sides. Consistency, reachability, and following through on commitments. Like those are the biggest things, the little small things that really
Yeah.
get women to feel safe. And when they feel safe, then the
Yeah.
trust comes.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about all that, it it feels like, from a man's point of view, if you're not feeling appreciated, it's probably a pretty good sign that something is going on with
Yeah.
your partner. Just the lack of that,
Hmm.
just in and of itself, doesn't matter over what. There's probably something.
Yep.
Something's missing, something's not right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Or when you feel disrespected.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and then we react to the result,
Hmm.
or I should say,
Everybody does.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Women do too. And then it becomes the standing point. Like they talk about this in emotionally focused therapy. They talk about the dance where we get into the same argument with different topics, but it's the
yeah.
same argument over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, what other questions? How else can we?
Oh, questions.
I mean, I've got a ton of stuff I can talk about, but
Oh, no, I'll just, you know,
keep asking. Is it
yeah, I'll pop in as you go through things. But this
perfect?
is really, really good.
Good.
Really
Sounds
good.
perfect. So, one of the things that when women are receiving kind of that feeling of that positive ownership, right? They feel safe, they feel respected, they feel loved because they notice that he's taking care of not just big things, but small things, right? Which means to women that they're being thought of. So, for example, I think I told you this in like the Learning to Find Love course. Alina used to talk about how her husband would call on his way home from work every day and say, "Do you need me to grab anything at the store?" Right. And so just even that little bit of attention or that little bit of
Yeah.
acknowledgement of like, hey, I don't want you to have to run out to the store,
Yeah.
was super valuable to her. In fact, to the point where she started being like, I'm going to stop going to the store in the middle of the day and grabbing everything I need because why don't I let him do some of this for me as well and stop being in my own masculine and forcing everything to happen from my point of view, right? So
Sure.
allowing him to step in, which is something that masculine women have a challenge with sometimes. Um, and when women are, you know, we like to feel supported, right? We like to feel like we don't
Mhm.
have to carry responsibility or fight for everything by ourselves.
Sure.
And so when a man is consistently reachable, when he's present, when he's consistent, whatever with whatever it is that he's doing or saying, then she knows, like if he's always showing up, I shouldn't say always, but if he's often showing up with the same emotional, like steady emotional states, right? Then she knows that when she feels vulnerable, she's not going to be attacked. She's not going to be ignored. She's not going to be judged. So it gives her more freedom to express. And when women have freedom to express, that's when they feel safe.
Sure.
And some of the best things you can do sometimes is just be like, is this something you want me to fix? Or is this something you just want me to listen to? Like you can literally ask that question, you know?
Absolutely. So I have a question on this topically. So,
Yep.
if if you have a partner that maybe doesn't have, real good emotional regulation
Mhm.
and tends to get pretty wound up about a lot of things,
Mhm.
um, and without, being judgmental, but maybe a lot of those things are really kind of small things, right? Like, why are you worried about this? Or why are you getting all wound up about something? And you're killing yourself trying to take care of that person and do things for them, but also trying to take care of your own things, which
Mhm.
at certain points in time in life, some of those things are like really big things,
Yep.
and your cup runneth full, right?
Right.
How how do you go back and have that conversation? And I tried to have it, and I know I just handled it horribly. But how do you go back and say, hey, I really need, there's a lot going on. I know you're having a hard time with whatever, but I need you to like not add stuff to my plate for a while. I mean, how do you say that without it sounding like I don't care that something's bothering you? But it's like right? It's like
Right.
my whole family is dying, and you're complaining about somebody who cut you off in traffic, and I mean it's just rolling kind of thing, and your head's splitting wide open, and you don't want to react and get angry, and all that. How do you? I thought I did a pretty good job of it, but evidently I didn't do a very good job of it.
Well, and
Um,
maybe you did a great job and she just couldn't also hold the capacity, right? Because we also have to
yeah,
remember that, like, as I talk about this, we're talking about kind of the average person that's looking to openly communicate.
right,
You've
right,
got a bad, if someone's got an attachment style, or if unconsciously they've learned that the only way they get attention is by creating drama,
right,
they're going
yeah,
to keep
right.
doing that until that gets healed, right?
Yeah, no,
So no
agreed.
matter how much we sit down with them and say, like, hey, I really can see you're struggling. I'm struggling too. Let's like figure this out. There's also a place where they have to also make the choice to do the healing, right?
Absolutely. And again, this is that whole trying to separate out, you know, where did I handle things well and the other person didn't do their part, or I could have handled it differently and had a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Right. So then it also goes back to what I said before, which is sometimes women don't even know what they want, or they don't know why they're reacting the way that they do, or
Yeah.
both.
Right.
Right? So sometimes it looks like, okay, let's have a conversation about this when we're both more calm, or let's have a conversation about this Tuesday at 4. Like we just set a date and a time. And then like by then I want you to like really understand like how I can communicate with you better and what you need from me. And here's what I need from you. And we're gonna sit down, just gonna talk about it. Because there may be a point where at those moments you both have to just walk away, or you have to say, you know what, honey, I really want to listen to you right now. I'm full up. I can't provide for you what you want. And out of respect for you, I want you to feel heard, loved, validated,
Yeah.
supportive. In order to get that, you might have to call a friend today. Like you may just have to say it out because I can't provide
Yep.
that for you right
Yeah.
now because my mom's dying or whatever. Right. So, sometimes like giving that trust and that safety is actually about saying like I can't do what you need me to do right now, like I have zero capacity,
Right. Yep, for sure.
because that is the hardest part in every relationship.
Yeah.
Yep. Is that helpful?
No, it is. It is. And I think interspersed in all of that too can be, again, for my own, experience when, your partner is reluctant to have conversations or to bring things up because of fear of the consequences of it, even with reassurances, that can be a really tough barrier
Yep.
to break down, even when it begins with, I really, I care about you. I really want to know what you think. I want to know how you feel about X, Y, and Z, whatever it happens to be. If there's just such a baked in fear of losing their partner or fear of being judged or fear of the consequences,
Hmm.
it can be really hard to get through that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then it goes down to the communication of, does she
Yeah.
need to get outside support from a coach, a therapist, a blah, 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 to process that? I have a friend who talks about that. She came from a very dysfunctional, abusive household,
Mhm.
and then she had an abusive marriage. And then in her second marriage, she's like, my husband was so solid. And she goes, and I would just sit there and freak out, and he'd be like,
Okay.
okay. Okay, honey. Like just and she goes, he sat there, he just listened, he didn't fix, he just held
Yeah.
space. And then like I'd get done with my freak out and he'd be like, cool, are we done? You good now? Like that, and that was
Jason.
it. She's like, he was
Yeah.
so mellow about it. I mean, but that also fit her personality, right? Like she
Sure.
needed that just like,
Well, I mean, and that was probably one of her kind of tests. I'm going to throw everything at him and see what happens and see if he can take it. And I would imagine, over time, if he is, stable in that regard, she probably ratchets that back.
yeah. They've been married for 20 years now. And she said it took
Yeah.
about 3.5, 4 years before she really like was solid
It's
in
like,
that.
okay, we're good.
Where she's like, wow, but it took her that
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
to be like, wow, every time I show up like
Yeah.
that, he's going to be just solid.
Well, it's that central nervous system memory.
Yep. Yep.
It's a beast.
It is. It is. Which is why kind of that daily showing up, that daily
Yeah.
presence, that daily consistency, the daily following through, the daily, the consistent actions that show that, hey, this is stable, this is steady, this is safe. Then when the blowups happen, now it's like, okay, well, I'm going to step
Yeah.
back into this space.
Yeah. Well, then it's an outlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there is some talk out there that, because of course we're all mirrors of each other, right? We're all what triggers us is what we're sensitive to, right? If
Oh,
someone calls me
absolutely.
a bitch and I'm just like, whatever, I don't care, right? But if my sister calls me a bitch, I'm going to be offended, right? Because that
Yeah.
hits differently.
Absolutely, it does. That's
So sometimes
right.
it's also about what are we sensitive to and why.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things out there that also talk about in that mirror space, how much are we as women reflecting the man's nervous system,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So when a man grounds and gets in his body and is like solid and stable, co-regulation naturally happens and the woman naturally starts amping down,
Right.
right? And as soon as the man starts amping up, it gives the woman more permission to amp up, right? And so co-regulation, I mean, it happens in every place, right? It happens in therapy rooms, it happens with your friends, it
Yeah,
happens when you're in your significant other
for
relationship,
sure.
it happens in crowds, like all the things. So the nervous systems will start to mirror each other. So a lot of times, one way to create that safety and that trust is to have that regularity of like, okay. And sometimes that even means like almost not putting up a wall where it's like I'm a wall, but like kind of being like, how do my instructor said it this way one time. He goes, sometimes you just have that client where you go, I'm gonna pretend like that client's yelling at this coffee cup and be like, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that must be really hard,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, oh yeah, I can see why you're having a bad, yeah, oh God, yeah, what a awful,
That's a great idea.
like just kind of stepping aside
Yeah,
instead of taking it all
absolutely.
personally,
Yeah,
right?
for
Because
sure.
when you're deflecting that energy off of yourself, being like,
Hmm.
this isn't actually about me. This is about her childhood. This is about her dysregulation. This is about her needing attention. This is about whatever. This has nothing to do with me. So I'm just going to sit here and hold space while she does her thing.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
So, and it's not to be like, oh, you don't matter. You're actually saying, what you have to say matters, but I'm not going to take that on for you. I'm just going to sit here and hold space to regulate,
absolutely.
which sometimes confuses people. And then they go, and some women who have not had that before will be like, you're not listening or you don't care. Or why aren't you getting angry? You must not care because they
Right.
want the interaction
Well, exactly.
so that
They're
you
trying to
care.
create it. Yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
that's all they've known,
Yeah,
right?
it's familiar.
Same thing with men, right? If they got used to like, I mean,
Absolutely.
I had to
And
give,
that, like you said, the triggers are huge and understanding the why,
yep,
why is this triggering? Because, ultimately, I think, relationship wise, people tend to gravitate towards a lack of friction and a lack of triggers as well. This means that it's healthy.
Yep.
And I think the opposite is actually probably more true is,
Absolutely.
you know, those triggers and things are showing you yourself, but you have to be able to see that.
Yes. Yep. So you have
Yeah.
to understand what is actually going on inside of me that's creating this reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, I saw you unmuted. Do you have a question, comment? I was teaching and then we started getting into questions and
Yes.
delving
Yeah.
into things. So
No, I'm sorry. I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I
Yeah.
can hear you. Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to unmute. I've
Okay,
just been listening.
cool. No problem. I just wanted to make sure we weren't over talking if you had something you wanted to
No,
add.
no, not at all.
Perfect. Sounds good. So here's the thing is, of course, we all know that actions speak louder than words. And this is the biggest thing I hear in relationship. And this is the biggest thing I hear around trust, right? They said they'd call it X time. They didn't call it all. They said they'd text back or they didn't. And they, like all those
Right.
normal everyday things. But then the apologies come like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't text you back. I'll do better next time. But then they don't, right? So
Sure.
sometimes it's not only about the apology, it's taking ownership, but also how do you follow through,
Sure.
right? One broken action that breaks trust can destroy everything, right? Can like
Absolutely.
create another month of rebuilding
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, it's usually patterns, but yeah,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So it's the consistent actions really, right? To create that safety, to rewrite the doubt, the presence, like I was talking about. And like I said, when a man is in his masculine and he's really grounded, it calms her system. When men get chaotic, women naturally go into protection,
Hmm.
right? Defensiveness, because no matter what's happening, like there is a way that we're always more vulnerable. And I'm like, no matter how strong I am, right? Like I could have beat up my guy when I was in my 20s, no problem, right? But there was a thing that when he got chaotic, I totally went into like, oh shit, what's going to happen, right? And I
Right.
backed off, but I was like, yeah, but I could have beat him up, like no problem. So I only hit him once.
Well, I hope it was a good one.
It was, I hit him in the stomach. It was fine. He was fine. But
Oh yeah, that doesn't
But
count.
but like this is the thing, right? Is like it took a lot for me to
Hmm.
step out of that, right? And I've never hit anybody again, but it was a very interesting dynamic to see like how far when I look back at it, how far into fight and flight I had to get in
For
order
that
to,
to
to
happen.
step up in that way,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Now, that's also becomes because I come from a healthy background, right? Like people that come from places where they hit each other all the time, that's going to happen a little more quickly. And this isn't what I really wanted to get into anyway, right? But
We moved on to assault and battery.
going on to solve battery. Exactly. But this is that level of, women will naturally feel more vulnerable, they'll naturally feel more regulated to attack. And they can attack with words, but
Hmm.
they will also like run, shut down. And the vulnerability, like once that vulnerability is there, it's hard to rebuild, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So when women know that their man is being present, right, we tend to hold space better. We tend to not attack. We tend to not overanalyze. We respect silence, right? Like if I'm feeling like the world's chaotic and I'm not really sure if you're there for me, that's going to bring chaos into my nervous system and be like, hey, what's going on? Hey, do you love me? Hey, show me this. Hey, will you help me with this? Will you help with that? And that like nagging energy or that pulling energy, like I always need a tiny bit of attention. Now, some people,
Yeah.
that's more their natural personality of what they learned. But that usually is an indication as well of like, I'm not feeling a steady, grounded presence as a woman. I'm not feeling that there's a consistency there or a reliability or a stability that I'm naturally sensing physically, mentally, and emotionally and
Yeah,
spiritually, right?
for sure.
So, but when she feels safe, she tends to respect that silence. Oh, he's just doing his thing right now, right?
Right.
I can be relaxed because he's just doing whatever he's doing, right? And she leans into being more vulnerable, right? Vulnerable in all ways. So, which also means more connection. Because when there's emotional intimacy, there's physical intimacy, there's spiritual intimacy, there's intellectual intimacy. When a man's holding that structure, it's much easier for it to step in vulnerability into all those spaces, and all of those things become easier. But of course, we all break trust sometimes. Everybody does, right? Like it's a natural part of
Absolutely.
relationships. We all screw up at some point in time, no matter how much we don't want to.
Sure. Well, and then it gets into intentionality.
Right, right. So then once again, it's like, why not? You need to get back into action, consistent, steady action, because what her nervous system wants is proof.
Right.
Right? Proof that the change is going to happen, proof that the apology was meant, proof that whatever was being done or not done, said or not said is actually changing. Right? It's I
Right.
hear this a lot, like when they talk about it in AA, they'll talk about like, well, what? I've been sober for 2 weeks. Why can't I have the checkbook back and all this stuff? It's like, dude,
No, right.
we're like drunk for a year and like wrecked our whole account. Like 2 weeks does not a trust rebuilding make. But sometimes this happens even in relationships, is that one side will take something very much more intensely than someone else. And the other person's like, what do you mean you don't trust me still? Like it was one thing, it was one error, it was one mistake. And the other person's like, yeah, but that's going to take me a month to rebuild.
Sure.
So
And that whole action thing, that's pretty equally bidirectional. Would you
absolutely,
agree? Yeah.
absolutely it is. Yep. Yep. And that's the thing, is also both sides have to see where's there been the growth, like I was talking about earlier.
Right.
It's not instant perfection. Because
No.
especially when a couple comes together, like moves into a household together, it's like if I've been leaving my socks on the floor for 15 years and you put them neatly in the hamper every single time, it's gonna take a while for me to retrain myself to where I put my socks. Like that's just gonna be the thing, right? So it's not that I don't want to, it's that my natural habit has gotten so ingrained. So then my job is to notice, how many times did he put his socks in the hamper? Oh, look, he did it.
Right. Yeah.
He's trying. He's a pretty, blah blah blah, whatever. So there's also
Right.
that energy of, as I mentioned before, is we tend to, out of defensive and survival mechanisms, every human tends to see what's wrong rather than what's right. Right? And especially once we start seeing something that's wrong in a relationship, a perceived wrong, it doesn't even have to be wrong.
Right.
I perceive something as wrong in a relationship. If you perceive something as wrong in a relationship, our brain naturally looks for more things that are wrong.
Right.
And it is up to us to shift how our brain is perceiving information and what we're looking at, right? Because when the feminine is in their feminine, right? We're in our softness, we're open-hearted, we have a lot of emotional expression, we're very receptive and nurturing, and we can be attuned relationally, and like that's part of the way that we nurture our significant other. We nurture our family, we nurture the space, whatever it is, right? And so when we get into our toxic place of femininity, when we start flipping and we start overcompensating, or we become very defensive, we become very wounded, and we start nagging, we start attacking, or we shut down, just like men shut down, right?
Yeah.
But we shut down in that way of like, I'm not heard, I'm not seen, I'm not wanted. And our natural instinct for most women then is to make ourselves less than. And now we're doing everything under the table. We're not going to ask anymore because we don't want to be rejected. And rejected just means I asked you to do something and you didn't do it. And now we feel rejected, or we feel like you don't care enough. Sorry to keep saying you, but I'm just like using
Yeah. The
examples.
royal you.
The royal you, all of you men. No, I'm just
All of you.
kidding.
All
All of you
y'all.
men. But now I feel like you don't care, and now I feel like you're not listening, and now I feel like I'm not valued, right?
Yeah.
So now I start doing things without asking, and then I'm resentful that I'm doing things without asking.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my toxic, right?
Absolutely.
Now I don't feel safe. Now I don't feel vulnerable. Now I'm going to do things out of spite. Now I'm going to do things because it's just easier for me to do it myself. Now I'm going to step into my masculine, and I'm just going to overtake everything. And I'm not even going to let you do something because It's just easier to do it myself, right?
Right.
It's a total defense mechanism. Right? So how can men tell when women are stepping into that toxic femininity, right? Is when they start weaponizing their feelings.
Yeah.
You're making me feel blah, blah, blah.
Right. Absolutely.
They become overreactive. They start using their emotions as leverage. And instead of expressing their needs, they're weaponizing everything that's going on or not going on.
Yeah.
Right? The sarcasm, the indirect jabs, the
The
passive
poets.
aggressiveness, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's that toxic femininity coming out because for whatever reason she's not feeling that masculine structure of safety or of trust, right? And I'm not saying it's the guy's fault either, right? Like sometimes men can do everything right, and this is just a woman has learned that
Sure.
she can't
For sure.
trust. She's like, yeah, she's
Yeah.
disorganized attachment, fearful avoidant, she's whatever, she's got an anxious attachment, and so that's just how her nervous system runs.
And it snowballs
Mm,
so fast.
it does. Yep.
So fast.
Yep. And the most fascinating thing is that if we look at attachment styles, people that are anxious attachment, right, that always want that closeness, right, and
Yeah.
the avoidant attachment, who's like, oh, now you're getting too close, and so I need to back off a
Right.
little bit. Those two often end up in relationships together. It's the
Yeah.
biggest relationship dynamic.
Yeah,
One's
exactly.
running and one's chasing, and one's like, why don't you love me? And the other one's like, oh, love's too much.
Stay away.
Yeah, right.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep.
Ah,
Yeah. So other ways you can see when women are in toxic femininity is that, or they don't feel like they're safe, or that they're in a place of trust, or that they're in a place of feeling cared for or honored, is they retreat, they use silence as a tool, but they also start criticizing the way of like, you just don't understand my emotions, or you should be more sensitive, or they start criticizing the masculine frame
sure.
because they don't feel like they're getting what they want. So then they
Right.
start trying to break down the masculine, right? What else was I gonna say about that? Often they can start feeling unworthy, unloved, right? And then, like I said before, she starts feeling that like, you don't care about anything I do, and now everything I do becomes a burden. It becomes like something I have to do rather than something I want to do for the
For
for the
sure.
relationship, right? So when there's feminine wounds that are unhealed, also like it's all that comes up: unsafe, unseen, not lovable, judged, I'm ashamed, I'm disconnected. And so now I go into these protective mechanisms, right? And
Right.
so you can also see it the opposite way, where women drop into this kind of nice role, start sacrificing themselves for everything because it's unfeminine. We're supposed to be nice. We're supposed to be gentle.
Right.
We're supposed to be accommodating. We sacrifice ourselves with the whole family. So right
Yeah.
now, the big thing is like, oh, women, take care of yourselves. But that's turned into self-care as a masculine thing,
Yeah, but
right?
that can breed a lot of resentment and have all kinds of messy byproducts.
Exactly. Exactly. So how do you make space for that, right? How do you lead without controlling? Because
Right.
the thing, right, there's power with and there's power over. So how do you become the masculine leader? Giving direction, giving steadiness, giving safety, but not dominating,
Right.
right? Because if somebody feels controlled, of course, no one wants to feel controlled because they're going to create resistance. So it's where's the difference between leadership and control? Where's the difference between the direction? Like, I've got this, let's plan this, and then I know what's going on, and now I've got the structure, I've got the stability, I know where we're going together, and here's how I'm supporting that process or whatever, right? Admitting fears and doubts actually shows a lot of strength, not weakness. And I think sometimes men are taught not to show that either,
Right.
right? Because you guys are supposed to know it all.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be
absolutely.
the strong one and provide and do all the
Yeah.
things, right? And if
Yeah.
you're not doing that, then yeah.
Yeah. And that accumulates, you know,
Yeah.
that accumulates.
Yeah. So being real builds trust. But then the question that a lot of people ask is, well, how do I be real without, like you were talking about before, without triggering her?
Sure. Well,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, the other thing too is, it can be a pretty fine line between being, real and genuine, but avoiding coming across as being, weak or incapable or,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah. And as we mentioned before, though, sometimes like it needs to be said that way. Like I remember my former husband one time saying like I can't remember exactly what was going on at the time, but he made a comment. He goes, I notice the times that we fight the most are when you're struggling and when I'm struggling and neither one of us can help each other. And I was like, oh yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
right. And sometimes it's just about pointing it out that way. Like
sure, for sure.
this is what I'm seeing about why this dynamic is happening right now. So how do we navigate this together? How, when we're both on 30%,
Right.
can we still support each other and not beat each other's throats to bring each other down to 10%, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's not
oh,
helpful
right.
for anybody.
Absolutely.
So maybe I
Well,
can
and,
fill your
part of
cup,
it,
but I don't have to drain it anymore, you know?
well, I mean, and if you both got, 30, and I think you talked about this in one of your other classes, or maybe I just saw it elsewhere, but if you both only got 30%, there's 40% left on the table that can't get accounted for. Even having the conversation of, well, what is the 40% we're not going to sweat today because we don't have the cycles for it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because then that also gives spaciousness and trust
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledgement of like, hey, I know I said I was going to do that, but I don't have capacity.
And that acknowledgement, that's the big piece. And that kind of connects back to, one of my earlier questions when it's like, look, stop bringing me problems that are not problems because they're not against, other things. And without it coming across like, what's
Yeah.
bothering you doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is a compatibility issue,
Yeah.
right? Like at the end of the day, there are some relationships that no matter how much trust you build and no matter how hard you work at it, even if the other person's working on it too, sometimes the
Sure.
relationship is just not a compatible relationship.
Sure.
And that
But
gets
even, but even getting to the point where, when you feel like you're both doing as much as you can and working super hard and not making the progress that you both like are expecting, even just trying to get on the same page of, well, when you say you're working on it, what does that mean?
right.
Now, what are you doing? Because I'm not seeing it, or vice versa.
Right.
I think there's some huge, probably big gaps for a lot of folks just on that. It's like
Absolutely.
I'm killing myself, and it doesn't seem to matter. Why are we not getting anywhere?
And it's true. And this is not a rag on on therapy by any means, but like I have a friend who's like, my sister's been seeing a counselor for 20 years and she's never gotten better. She's never gotten over the thing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So what is actively working on it? Are we working on the relationship? What does that look like? And so sometimes that's where the boundary setting comes in.
sure. Well,
Here are the actions or the changes that I need to see. How can we
sure,
make that happen? Here are the actions and changes I'm committing to make that you want to see. How can I make that happen? How are we measuring this?
yeah. And like for me, I realized that it was not working for my part because I was working on the problem versus working on the relationship.
Right.
And she was simply out of ideas of how to work on the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because that's the thing is that I'll tell people like you both have to stand there and look at the problem together. Right? Remember that
Right.
you're on the same team. Like
Yeah. Right.
here, you're here, there's the problem. We are both working on this together. I'm not the enemy of you with the
Right.
problem in the middle. That's not
Yeah.
what we're doing here.
Right. Exactly.
And when you can reframe it like that, it really takes a lot of pressure off both sides.
Oh, huge, hugely. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because women are much more, feel much more safe when they feel held in that way, right? Like we talked about before. Do you want me to fix this? Or do you want me to just listen today? Like,
Yeah.
what is your goal of bringing this to me so
Right.
I can be the most supportive for you in the way that you need to be supported right now?
Are there, since you brought it up, Are there like some really obvious cues there to know which is happening in any given situation? Am I supposed to listen right now, or are you actually asking me to help solve a problem?
I would say always listen first.
Yeah,
And then at the end, you can just ask. Like, I have some
sure.
ideas about that. Do you want to hear them or you just feel better
Yeah,
that you got to get it out? And that's all it has to be.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to give you some ideas and support or
That's
did
what I've
you
always done. I don't ask the question. I just offer it, and it doesn't go. It doesn't usually go.
Right.
Doesn't
Right.
go very well.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Cool. Anything else? We're a little bit over, but I've got another 10 minutes if we need. So, do you feel
Did
like
you
you
have
got
any
the
other?
answers to your questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you have any other topics on your list?
What else did I want to talk about? No, mainly the things about the other stuff I want to talk about was really about how you use words, how people use their words, right? So we talk about this a lot in neurolinguistic programming and NLP. Things like the words but and and. Have you heard the
Mhm.
kind of differentiation? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I love you, but is
Yeah,
different than I love
absolutely.
you and, right?
Right.
So where are we putting in those words to show that we're expressing? Where are we taking ownership for like, here's how I'm feeling right now, right? Because how I feel, you can't, I mean, yes, you can argue with it, but you can't really argue with it, right? Because
Right.
I feel how
Right.
I feel, and there's no right or wrong to that.
Right.
Instead of being like, you're making me feel,
Exactly.
you're making me da da da. If you didn't, then of course the always and the nevers and the things that
Yeah.
really like amp up the arguments and prevent. So all of that stuff breaks trust. All of that
Absolutely.
stuff brings up defensiveness. And often when there is a pattern or cycle of conflict, it really is about coming to an agreement outside of the conflict and being like, okay, I've noticed we've been getting in this kind of dynamic lately where X happens and then Y happens, then X happens and Y happens. So the next time we get into a cycle like that, I'm going to break it like this. I'm going to interrupt the pattern because
Hmm.
that's often what it takes is a big pattern interrupt. And like what I'll teach people even in like NLP and stuff, we do a big pattern interrupt, like drop on the floor and start screaming or start laughing and dancing. And then people are like, what the F are you doing? Because it breaks the cycle of the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the unconscious mind goes, well, shoot, I don't know what to do with this. And now dialogue can open because the pattern's
Sure.
been broken. And sometimes that's just the most important thing is to break the pattern. So then dialogue can happen. But if it's not known that that's going to happen, sometimes that can also have bad consequences, right? So it's like, okay, next time we get into an argument, I'm going to break the pattern. I'm going to do something like this or like this or like this just to try to break us out of this, right? Or
Sure.
now there's all those reels. I don't know if you've seen the reels on Instagram where when people start fighting, they'll actually get nose to nose. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's actually quite funny. So there's this couple that does it quite often, and they'll get there and he'll be like, you said that you were going to da 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 da. And she's like, well, I was taking care of the kids and she vomited all over the place. And they're like literally nose to nose like this, right? And they're giggling, right? Because they start out angry, but when you're that close to each other,
Yeah.
like the dynamic changes. You're in the
Oh,
like, yeah, well,
absolutely.
blah, 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 and now your nose is all squishing on the other person's nose. And like, so sometimes just even doing something like that, like having a process like also builds trust that hey, I can express my conflict, I can express my dissatisfaction, and we've created a way that's safe and open because we've agreed on it ahead of time, and that can create so much trust to be
For
vulnerable
sure.
for both sides. For I'm sorry for keep calling it
Yeah.
sides, but you know what I mean, for both.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, just, to your point, feeling like there's like a plan in place or like something the next time that something comes up, even just knowing that there's been a conversation, or even if the plan doesn't happen quite according to plan,
Right.
just knowing the conversation's taken place and that it's been thought about ahead of time enough can probably have a big impact all by itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Awesome.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for showing up. Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thank
That's
you. It
kind of
was
fun to get
great.
all free flowy instead of just talking for
Yeah.
hours. I love
If
it.
you ever have one of those like little freak out things, make sure you do a video of it because I want to see it.
If I do a freak out thing,
Well, one of those, yeah, one of those, what did you call it?
pattern interrupt.
Yeah, the pattern interrupt. Those could be like really entertaining.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Are you
Yeah.
on Instagram?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Facebook? I'll
I know I've got an account. I just
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
Well, I'll just text it to you then next time I see
Oh
it,
yeah, no, that'd be great.
and then they can just
Great.
jump on. Cool.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank
Thank
you,
you very much.
everybody. See you soon.
Have a
Take
good night.
Yep, you too. Bye-bye.